Welcome to Diversity Conversations, where we engage in thought-provoking dialogue to identify leadership solutions to today's most challenging conflicts. Stream live each week, Saturday 9:30 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hosted by Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategist and CEOs Eric Ellis and Tommy Lewis. Join us and add your voice to this engaging diversity conversation.
Good morning, Greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, the United States, and the world. My name is Eric Ellis. I'm the president and CEO of Integrity Development Corporation, and I'm joined today by my good friend and brother,
Tommy Lewis, president and CEO of Make It Plain Consulting. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning, Tommy. How are you, my friend?
Doing well, doing fantastic, man. Another beautiful Saturday, up early. And wanted to shout out quickly our folks that are joining from the West Coast. That's even earlier than 9:30 a.m. Eastern. So that dedicated effort is to be appreciated, recognized, and honored. So thank you.
Absolutely. We enjoy Dr. Reggie Crane, Terry Cooley, and others from the West Coast that are tuning in with us, and all of our community, man. We love you. Whether you're here right now or whether you see us later, we are still grateful to have you following what Tommy and I have to say. Tommy, we even had a chance to golf recently, man. And as I look out the window and see the snow showers, man, I'm so glad we got that in.
I am too, Eric. That was a blessing again. And, winter is coming and our golf season may be on pause for a moment, but we got out once again, had a lot of laughs, had a few nice strokes, right? Working on some things, right? And just enjoyed each other's company. It was
right.
Great.
Right. We're grateful for that. And I would say to you, if you're in our community, one of the major things that I know I took away from the pandemic is that we really do have to live for today, and we have to enjoy today, not simply live for today, but live in the day, because you don't know what tomorrow holds for you. And as I've said on many other occasions, success is not some destination that you're going after. It's not some salary that you're trying to achieve. It's not some income bracket that Tommy and I are trying to achieve in terms of our businesses. Success is experienced in each moment that you live. So make sure that today, the moments that you live are on purpose, that they are intentional, and that they add value, that, life is a beautiful thing. Even looking at the snow that God has created is a beautiful thing. We just had the sun a couple of days ago, and I was out there on the golf course one time by myself, and, the sun was going down and you couldn't see well, but you just saw this orange, beautiful line. And you knew that what God creates are some of the most beautiful paintings that the eye and the mind could ever see. So make sure that you're enjoying life either by yourself in meditation or with other people. Tommy, how was your week, man?
Eric, my week was fantastic. I know it seems like I always say that I'm a positive, optimistic person, but this week it was actually something special.
Okay.
I do want to shout out two of our clients and what I was working with. One of which is Lutheran Services in America, national organization. You can take a look at their organization, which they provide respite and residential opportunities for our community members who are severely disabled and their families. Lutheran Services in America. I was facilitating the first part of a 3-part series in diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was a webinar. We had attendees from every corner in the United States, including Alaska, who were on the call. And so we had a fantastic job there. And then most importantly, I would like to shout out my good friend, the president and CEO of Encircle, Ray Radke. Ray brought me into Encircle, ENCIRCLE, Encircle. We came together in Virginia with about 100 of the leadership members in Encircle. And Eric, we had a team building leadership summit. We worked through some tactical things as well. But at the end of the day, the joy and the laughter and the learning was second to none. These folks who are very seasoned, right? Very seasoned professionals, some of them 40 years in the space. They really took a hold of one thing that I encouraged them to do. And I encouraged them to really exploit their juvenile essence.
Okay.
I believe that everyone, regardless of your age, we still have that child at heart mentality.
That's right. That's excellent, Tommy.
We're still young,
right?
We can still laugh. We can still be silly. We can still be giddy.
Right.
And that really reminds us of the times that we had no worries, right?
Right.
So I wanted to invite them into that conversation of juvenile essence. And we had a lot of fun games, and they did not hold back from having fun. So it helped me help them to help me as well. So it was full circle. That's how my week was this week, Eric. A lot of laughs, a lot of fun.
Excellent, Tommy. That's always great, man. This week for me was, again, I think we both are, unashamed, positive individuals who really look at the glass as always half full. I did go to the UNCF Mayor's Luncheon yesterday. We had Steve Miller on last week. Did a great job talking about the luncheon. Attended the luncheon. The mayor was there. A number of other dignitaries was there. Alicia Reese was there talking about her experiences at Grambling State University, and had some young people from Taft, the band from Taft. Had Triumph has a internship program that they do with young people of color, and young girl Kalia from I think it was Hughes really spoke about her experience. Tommy was moving beyond words, man. And she stumbled a couple of times because she got nervous that she was about to forget something that she wanted to say. And she was like, oh, I'm about to mess up. I've prepared for this and I want to do it right. But she had done such an amazing job that it was blowing people away. And she talked about some of the experiences that she had in her internship, Tommy, that have reshaped her whole imagination of who she is and what she wants to be. And she talked about going back to school on Monday and telling her peers all the things that she had experienced. And it just tied together so much of what we're about, is that as you begin to expose young people to greater insight, then they take that and that becomes infectious in their environment. And I think that's what was powerful. The superintendent I think she said she had turned the UNCF down for a board leadership role or something like that. But when she came to this luncheon and heard one of her students, she says, I'm compelled to say yes. And I'm going to say this right now in public. So that was powerful. Also this week, I got a chance to speak to a class at UC. Tommy, we get asked to do a lot of different things. And sometimes when you do so many things for free, you feel like on the next one, you get to say, thanks, but no thanks, go grab somebody else.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful that I said yes. And I spoke to this classmate a couple of days ago, and it was in person. And young people were very appreciative of the experience, the knowledge that I was able to share with them. But it's a two-way street. I always grow from hearing young people, both their questions and their perspectives. But I shared a story at the end talking about my own kids and just some of the stresses and anxiety that they've gone through and how that impacted them in school and everything. And a couple of students came up to me afterwards and said, Mr. Ellis, I needed that. I'm going through so many struggles right now. It feels like the weight of the world is on my shoulders. I'm from another country and my parents are these perfectionists. And so, one time I got all A's and 1B, and my mom was, disappointed about the 1B. I said, well, why can't you be happy about the 5 A's?
Yeah.
And he was moved by the fact that I said that it's my job. When I raise my kids, they ride my boat for the first 18, but then after that, I got to ride their boat wherever they're going. That's what I got to be doing. And he was like, so grateful to hear that. He said, my father's never seen me run track. He's never seen me play this other sport that he plays. He said he's been working the whole time trying to make a living. And my father's a good man. I love him. But I just feel isolated and by myself. And so I was glad to be able to speak to those students and let him know that I'd be available to talk to him, be a mentor or whatever. The other things that happened this week is I am developing a new series of training modules called the 3 C's of Respect. Now, I established this probably 5 years ago and then never really launched it. And now, Tommy, as we look at the ways in which the courts may change, I'm looking at preparing myself against some attacks that may happen on things that are called diversity, equity, inclusion, because my belief is that the Supreme Court is probably going to overturn affirmative action. And all of that's only going to serve to accelerate the pace of change.
Sure.
But I believe that we can get our work done by at times broadening our message and even taking greater ground. I think about in the Bible where we were admonished on many occasions to take more ground. And I think too often people that do what you and I do will stay in the lane of DEI. When in fact, most of the organizations that you and I serve are not doing any of the fundamentals around people development. And so we find it all the time, whether you do emotional intelligence, there are a lot of other things that you do and because your job, in order for you to be successful with an organization, you're not simply going to be able to talk about DEI. You got to talk about change management, organizational effectiveness. Those are all the things that you do. And so that is what I'm preparing to do. So I'm focused on these 6 competencies under the 3 C's of respect. The 3 C's are respect is demonstrated in how we communicate, how we collaborate, and how we care. And so I've got competencies under those with inclusive leadership competencies, empathic leadership, psychological safety, accurate self-awareness, a sense of belonging. Those are some of the competencies that we are then helping to build into supervisors and managers. The other thing I told you before, Tommy, that I'm doing is really decreasing the amount of content that I put into learning modules, giving people practical tools and focusing those, and then letting people practice those things over and over again so that I increase the likelihood that they'll retain those things and they'll be manifesting those changed behaviors in the workplace. So
yeah, Eric, and you just actually answered in part a question I was going to ask you. And so what is the difference between awareness and competency?
Right.
Yeah,
right. And awareness, I would say that we don't, you didn't, but people shouldn't underestimate the power of awareness. As we look at the 3 steps to sort of decreasing unconscious bias, step number 1 is increase people's awareness of inequity. So awareness prepares us to understand the terrain around us, the world that we live in, the challenges that marginalized people are up against. So you need to have awareness. But if you stop at awareness, and I think this is your real point in question, then you sit around just knowledgeable about something, but never being skilled to sort of make a change. Right. And so competency means then that you have to move beyond awareness to actions that will make a positive difference in how you go about creating diverse, equitable, inclusive corporate cultures where people have a sense of belonging. So competence is something that we have to build up skill around, and we have to practice those skills. If we're learning things and we're not practicing them, then we don't have the competence.
So you alluded to it, and it's resonating with me right now on the personal level and professional level. From a personal level perspective, I've heard people, and I've had my own kind of personal wishes where, I need to lose weight.
Right.
So the awareness is that I may be overweight, or I may not be as healthy as I want to be,
right.
Or I want more money. I want a better home. I want a different car. That's a part of awareness. Right. You're acknowledging something that is real, and you want and desire maybe something different.
Right.
It may be different, it may be new, it may be more, right? And then there's competence. It's the how do I get that difference that I desire? So I may see myself and be aware I'm overweight or I'm underweight, and I want to be in a better place, better shape. But how do I do it?
Right.
And so that how is mindset. I had to shift my mindset toward creating a ideology, a thought, a philosophy of change and accepting change. Also that discipline to change.
Right.
And then also creating kind of an action plan, something that is sustainable over a period of time, not a one moment check the box and then I'm there. The same thing happens on a professional level, Eric. As you and I know, we engage with organizations all the time, and there are employees who are absolutely aware that there are problems. And they will tell you, here's the problem, here's the problem, here's the problem.
Right.
They are aware of all of the problems. But from a competency perspective, they don't know how to resolve or solve the problem.
Right.
And so they're in that purgatory
Right.
where I'm voicing my concern, pain
Right.
points, problems, and issues,
Right.
and I'm going to place it on you to solve them.
That's right.
Although you're not a part of the organization, you may be looking from the outside in, and I am in the organization, but I don't know how. And in closing, people have said that.
Right.
How do we do it?
Right.
That there's where the competency
Right.
is, and that competency is developed by way of content, learning, awareness, and information, and most importantly, application of the competence.
Absolutely, Tommy. And so I am grateful that I've been on earth long enough to continue learning and to actually begin to gain a greater understanding of what it takes to make effective change a reality. And so when I first started doing work, it was just all they asked you to do was diversity training. So as long as you did something that didn't offend everybody, that was fine. You get another opportunity. But over the years, I knew that that kind of training was not sustainable and really didn't bring about change. And so in our latter years, the last decade, people have really inquired and asked us to come on board to help them provide a full suite of solutions that go from assessment to looking at their systems and processes, to educating their people, to developing strategic plans and measuring results. And so I'm grateful for that. But one of the things that I love about providing a more robust set of solutions is that when you do the research and when you hear from the people what the problems are, and then you are also given the opportunity to develop some of those learning solutions. Oh, Tommy, I love it. Because what I've learned is a lot of times bias and discrimination doesn't show up easily in representation, in terms of pay equity. It doesn't show up easily in terms of promotional equity. Here's what happens that I've seen most often, Tommy, is that oftentimes people are already sort of slotted in a place through the performance evaluation. It's almost like being in India or somewhere else like that, that you're already slated into a caste system by the time you're born, and then you don't get out of that. So when you get dinged in the performance evaluation system, you get rated low, then you get everything that low-rated people get. You get lower pay, you get lower promotional opportunities. So hey, there's no bias in the pay equity, because you're getting what other people that are rated low are getting. The inequity comes in the performance appraisal system, the performance evaluation. And so now we get a shot at that. And so I'm teaching managers and supervisors around inclusive leadership, asking them to track their behavior, teaching them about the kind of biases that go into performance ratings, what the research says about those biases, that we give women more sort of personality-based feedback that's not actionable. Women, people of color, get more feedback that's not actionable than anybody. And so for them to be able to learn that and then learn how to fight against that are some of the things that we're doing. We're teaching them how to listen to their people, how to create equitable systems, and giving it to them in bites that they can apply, Tommy. I'm really excited about that. We've got with one company 5 modules that we take them through. Each module is 3 hours, and each module is simplified down to something that they can remember and that they can apply.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is the work we do. This is the conversations that we have, right? Part of this work is just simply having the, diversity conversations, Eric.
Right. And let me just go to Ken's comment here that he said, thank you for the compliment. He said, I appreciate the thin line, and we'll come back to that. You brothers walk in training, teaching, coaching in a cancel culture where boldly communicated truth will get you canceled. And so, again, you're absolutely right. And so what Tommy and I have had to do is we've had to make adjustments in order to be sensitive to a sensitive world that we live in. I ask the question all the time. I ask these students this week, what's the number one diversity issue in this country or in the workplace? And they start throwing out things. It's, classism, it's racism, it's sexism. I said, no. And everybody's like, what is it? I said, the number one diversity issue is the one that affects you.
Indeed.
That's where people are. The number one diversity issue is the one that affects you. And so you, as a facilitator, you have to understand that then, that nobody wants to show up at a proverbial birthday party for somebody else. And so a lot of times marginalized people get used in the advertisement of DEI. So the organization is talking about, we're going to change structural racism. But what that ends up doing is making you a larger target, because other people, especially those in the dominant culture, who are feeling ignored and like they're not getting any of the things that they want as well, backlash is created. So then you have to be able to display empathy to everyone. And I think that's the thing that has allowed us to survive, Tommy, is that we know that all individuals are experiencing some problems. We want to make sure that whatever we're talking about has some value to every level, every individual, every group. And as we prepare people to do that, it then gives us the runway to deal with those systemic challenges that marginalized people face.
Yeah, Eric, and I know we have an agenda to talk through. We're having this conversation. Thanks for the community for chiming in. That thin line is more and more becoming thinner and thinner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have seen, in the public forums where certain text messages or anything that an individual may support or even not support, anything that's said or done can be interpreted as offensive, and it could be offensive.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the campaign to cancel, to remove that person from their livelihood, from the limelight, and sometimes from life as they knew it.
Right. We're seeing that with Kanye right now.
Yep. The cancel culture is not only canceling, right? Just like a television show, it's been canceled, so we no longer see it. But in some cases, it is generating a mentality, a philosophy of how we as human beings are going to interact.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not agree with me, or I don't agree with you, I need to get rid of you. So there was this previous ideology around diversity, and that previous was, okay. We've been talking about this thing called diversity, equity, inclusion for some time, but I think the most important thing is diversity of thought. Right. That's what I think is the most important thing. Diversity of thought. We want to hear different thinking. I think some of the same groups, people, cultures who said diversity of thought is very important. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Eric, because it's important to me. I don't care about race or gender identity or all that. I care about what you cannot see, which everyone has, and that's their own mind.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're saying, wait a minute. If you think differently than I, then I need to cancel you. I need to remove you.
Right.
If I don't agree with how you think and what you say in this free world, then I have to campaign to have you gone.
Right.
What we do is, for the most part, we're at the tennis match and we're on the side. We may be the judge, the side judge, and we're seeing the ball being volleyed across the net back and forth. And we just scream out, "Hey, you know, you all are playing tennis, right?" That's what we do, Eric.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a game. Tennis is a game. I mean,
it's going back and forth,
each other over this. Right.
So that's what we do.
Right. And I would say, just because I mentioned Kanye, that there are, in a free society, you get the freedom to say whatever you want. But sometimes there are going to be consequences for that. And as long as you're prepared to accept those consequences, you can say anything you want to say. There is, and I think when Ken talks about this thin line, a cancel culture, there is, I think that the term cancel culture came from conservatives as a criticism for the things that liberals were doing anytime they disagreed with something or somebody. When somebody said something that hurt their feelings, they would just cancel them. And so that was it. But everybody wants to cancel the things that don't line up with what they believe or feel as though they were offensive to them. I think that cancel is the pressure. It's the defense mechanism that marginalized people do have against empowered people who feel like they can just sort of, push their weight around. So that's the power that they have. But all of us want to watch out for just wanting to cancel anything that I don't agree with. And I think that is a problem. And I'm trying to allow myself to always be open to being a diversity critical thinker, which is one who's able to understand the legitimacy of perspectives that are different than the one that I have. Let me now, Tommy, where we wanted to go today is I have an opening statement that says, we just had midterms on Tuesday. We still don't know who is going to be ultimately in control of Congress or the Senate. We feel as though things are leaning towards Republicans taking over the House. But we're not sure what's going to happen in the Senate. It's going to be a 50-50, maybe again, who knows? Politics often leads to discussions on how divided people are in this country. I say it all the time, Tommy, that we're not as divided based upon the work that you and I do. We're not as divided as we're told we are. But if you keep telling people they hate each other, before you know it, you're fighting in the streets. But I wanted to pose the question, and I'm going to read this question that I wrote down. Are we really divided as a nation? Or do we have simply have division pushers? In other words, people who are trying to make us division junkies, hooked on the drugs of anger, fear, conspiracies, and bias. So that's the question that I'm posing, Tommy, is this a creation of people who benefit from our fighting one another?
I think in short, the answer is yes. I know it's a double-edged question.
Right.
Are we divided, and or do we have these divisive pushers? And I would like to call them agitators. Right. And so when you have the schoolyard fight, right, there may be an issue between the two people, and they have had this issue in the classroom, and they're poking at each other, and then it's that agitator.
Mm-hmm.
I think you all need to go out into the schoolyard and fight. Right. And then they go out there and they're talking to each other. And then the agitator says, fight. And then you have a crowd around them. And now those two people are looking around, and ego, pride, and all that gets involved. And now we have to fight. I think that's what's happening. I think it's the same spirit to generate hate, anger, and that fight kind of divisiveness as it is with those who want harmony and love and peace. It's the same. It's in the same vein.
Right.
It is. It's that attention and a dedication and motivation to push divisiveness.
Right.
It's the push. It
Right.
generates energy. It generates a concept of win or lose, although we may not all be winning or losing, all right? But there's a perception of winning and losing.
Right.
And that perception becomes one's reality. And that perception, it can be based on a truth, a half-truth, or outright lie. If it creates some energy and some self-esteem, some core values in oneself, in their own culture, in their own identity, then I will fight for it, even if I don't know what it means.
Right.
Right. And so that pusher is that edger, that agitator, you know, fight. What are we fighting for? We're fighting for fighting's sake.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Have no clue. I've said before that I ask in almost every class that I teach, okay, what grade would you all give Democrats and Republicans in our Congress and Senate for working together on behalf of us, the American people? What grade would you give them? And man, it's a unified answers. D minus, F minus. I mean, everybody's screaming with joy because everybody clearly understands that what we're getting in terms of representation is poor right now. I saw some research then that said that 87% of Americans are exhausted. They're tired of political division. That 4% of people have felt suicidal because of division. That's 10 million people, Tommy, that feel suicidal. 75% people say that they believe that we can still come together despite these divisions. And during the last midterm election, the concept of the exhausted majority emerged. And what got my attention is that, and since then, politicians and journalists alike have embraced the concept. I mean, you guys are part of what's creating this sort of exhausted majority. And now you want to join the bandwagon of saying this is a problem. Oh, my God. But what are your thoughts about there being so many people that are exhausted by what we're going through and still a good number of people that believe that we can find our way back together?
I think a couple of things, Eric, and I'll put myself in one of the things that those who may find themselves exhausted can unfortunately find themselves addicted to the same thing that's creating the exhaustion.
Wow.
And so, although I want to turn away from the news media that's pumping in divisiveness, listen to me, I'm addicted to it. There's some serotonin that's pumping in me that I need to see this train wreck, right? And I'm on the train.
Right.
So that's one thing. The other thing is that for those who are exhausted, as I am, I've simply have decided to jump off the train.
Right.
Right. Now I can.
Hey guys, thanks. But your stop off is a few stops there. Thomas said, no, I'll walk the rest. I'll
walk the rest. I see what's going on here. I can hear the train rolling by. It's very distinctive sound. Right. That political train is chugging down.
Ran over a couple of people, and the conductor never stopped.
Kept moving. Yeah. Right. And you know, when I saw that happen, I was oh my goodness,
really?
that was terrible, wasn't it? That was terrible. And I dropped off. And so my spirit, my energy, my faith also says, this is unhealthy for you. And that's where I said, hold on, because I was falling into some addiction and it became psychologically, emotional, and spiritually unhealthy for me. I had to pull out and move toward what my faith says is peace, love, and happiness. So that's a decision that I made, but it's in the same vein again. We're going down that path, and the parties, unfortunately, it's not a party anymore, man. It's not fun, right? It's not fun. That's a nomenclature, if you will.
Right. Ken has said two-party politics, and if any of our other community members want to weigh in, jump in, we certainly are glad to hear from you. Two-party politics is a poor barometer of the pulse of the American people. People who have emotional connection with a political party tend to operate out of fear and extremism. Meet me in the middle. The middle is where ideas and solutions in common ground are found. The Democrats nor Republicans have an interest in that. And I've heard people say that we're trying to be gracious on the Democratic side, that I hope that if the Republicans win, that they win by a large enough majority to govern, because if it's a slim margin, they can be controlled by the crazies, by the MAGA crowd. I disagree with that. I like thin margins. Thin margins force us to make decisions. They force us to either out that all we are is political monsters, and we'll do anything in order to stay in power myself, because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Speaker of the House and that kind of thing. So I think thin margins are good because they empower more people. So this broken two-party system, they still do have diversity, but if there's too much power on one side, then the leaders get to whip everybody into shape. What we saw with the Senate last time was that it was a 50-50 split, and then Kamala Harris got to, but then, the one senator, what's his name? I forgot his name on the Democratic side, but he had huge power, almost as much power as the president, because one person could hold out and then you couldn't move forward. I kind of like that, man, when we get hamstrung by the diverse groups within even the parties. I think that could help us. But this is a crazy system that we're looking at. What I did, Tommy, is when I first thought about this, and I thought about sort of what's the parallel between drug dealers and those who are panders and peddlers of division, fear, anger, conspiracy. And so I saw this article, The Strategies of How Cocaine Crack Dealers Keep Their Patrons Addicted. I'm gonna read a couple of these, Tommy, just tell me what you think. Drugs are a lucrative business. Let's replace drugs. Division is a lucrative business. True or false?
True. Absolutely, unquestionably true. Yep.
Right.
It's
Why
lucrative.
are people pandering in division, Tommy?
Well, pandering division for a number of reasons. One, it really spotlights the market share. So in other words, when you pander division, you can fall into a majority side. They're either with you or not. There is a smaller in between, and that's what Ken was talking about as well. But when you pander division, if you're not on board, if you're not a customer, I'm not really worried about you yet.
Right.
Just focus on my customer.
Right.
And so that's why we pander that division to draw a line in the proverbial sand, right? So that I can exploit and maximize my audience, my base, right? And so that we can I can be free with my base.
Right.
That's what cocaine became, crack became free basing.
Right.
Right. And that's what the drug dealer did with cocaine, right? And just there were folks on that side created some divisiveness. Hey, you don't want to do cocaine, you want to do this crack, right? Which is a faster rush of what you can never achieve.
Right.
Right. You want to achieve utopia, euphoria. You want to achieve this all-knowing, just like politics.
Right.
You would never achieve it, but I'm going to keep peddling it to you.
Right.
So you keep coming to me and chasing it, and I can make money off of your false reality.
Right. Let me continue. So these dealers, they target who they already know. Crack dealers are looking for the right customers. They don't sell to strangers because friends are closer to them than most people. Dealers can tell whether or not the product will be effective. In fact, the majority of cocaine dealers only sell to the people They already know. So how are we seeing that peddled out there in these silos, Tommy? Man, this is just really, this is why it's so scary to be in a silo. Talk about that if you can. Just, I mean, the fact that drug dealers are trying to sell to people they already know, quote unquote, your friends. Huh?
Yes. So I was just yesterday listening to a podcast, and it went down this direction as well. And one of the guests on the podcast was mentioning about the mentality of those who are already predisposed to conspiracy theories and divisiveness.
Right.
There are people who are mentally predisposed either by way of their own interest, or in some cases, as this guest talked about, mental illness. And so those who peddle divisiveness, they peddle it first to those who are close to them, saying, you're already a little bit off.
Right.
So let me feed you this misinformation, this lie, this thing that would energize you to go even further in the extreme direction.
Right.
And once I have you on the hook, you'll keep coming back to my product.
Wow.
Even if it's a lie. I keep selling you lies. Selling you lies. And you will take that lie and spin it into the conspiracy that you want to see as your reality.
Right.
That's why we peddle to those who we know, because unfortunately, those who do peddle they prey on people.
Right.
And they prey on mental capacity. They prey on spiritual capacity. They prey on physical capacity. They prey on those who they believe have lesser capacity to deal with the tolerances to make the strong decision.
That's right.
To say, I'm jumping off the train. I'm leaving you. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Because otherwise, folks that are getting peddled be like, are you done with the lying? You know, and I know you're lying. So enough of the jokes. I'm not going to come on board. But when I'm mentally unstable, I may say, that sounds like a lie that will create some divisiveness. Tell me a little bit more. Got you. Right. And I don't care if you're my sister, brother, neighbor, you're in the same club. Once we start to hear that word fight, and people come around, those are the people who want to be in the fight. Others go the other way. This is a social and behavioral science experiment. This is nothing new, Eric. That's what I think.
Right. We're friends. We like each other. We believe the same things. You got to stick with us now. If you want to still be our friend, you got to buy this too, and just keep adding to the purchase list. And before you know it, you're lost and isolated. You're over some island that you never thought you'd be over there doing the funky chicken naked, you know, and say, well, how'd I get here? Well, you kept buying into them saying y'all were friends. Now there you are over there acting a fool. They said they spend more money on existing patrons. They know that word of mouth is king, so they make sure that the right people have the highest quality lies. Before long, they will tell others about it. Man, how does that relate to this? They're trying to make sure that they inform. Aren't we seeing that in the political races, that they're bringing in those who are the closest and really giving them additional crazy detail that keeps them hooked?
We're seeing that so often, so much so that, Eric, these days, when that lie is projected, I'll give you an example. I do not condone or promote anything I'm about to say. I'm just repeating what I've seen.
Right.
There was one particular party who talked about this wave of votes that was going to swing the pendulum toward their side. And that ideology, that speech was continued throughout a number of different platforms and pulpits and all that good stuff. And it may have been a lie, or it may have been wishful thinking.
Right.
But at the end of the day, they and others thought and knew that that wave or tsunami did not happen.
Right.
And in a heartbeat, folks said, we never talked about a wave or a tsunami, right? What are you talking
reality
about?
to line up with whatever's happened.
In a heartbeat.
Right.
As soon as it didn't happen, we never talked about that.
Right.
Are you going to believe you or your lying eyes?
Right. Right. Right.
Because right now, you can't believe yourself because I tell you what you believe in. So you can't believe yourself.
Right.
And are you going to believe your lying eyes? So what you see, which is a lie, you need to believe that.
Right.
Again, I'm not mixing words here. If it sounded confusing, go back and repeat what see what I said.
Right.
I'm just telling you the strings that are pulled.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, I think that, yeah, the jig is up, man. I'm not believing none.
I agree with that, Tommy. And I'll tell you what, I think that this current election is an example of cracks in the armor of division. In other words, the drug dealers are losing their hold because people are so exhausted. There's so many things that we have been up under: COVID-19, economic pressures, social injustice and racial justice. Man, people are just worn out. So they're just tired of you playing your games on me too. And I think that what we're seeing is people are beginning to wake up and say, I'm not just in the pocket of any party. Yep. That when you do things that are crazy overreaches, like Putin, like even what the Supreme Court is contemplating, I say have at it. You know, that's the beauty of getting older, Tommy. Sometimes you just say, man, you stop hoping that people will do the right thing. You just say, you will do the wrong thing. That's fine. Yeah. If that's what you're going to do, let's get that done and see how that works for you. Because I know that that's not sustainable over the long haul. And all you're going to do is accelerate the pace at which people begin to demand more. Let me say one other thing then, and let you react to this. They know when to stop. In other words, the drug dealers know when to stop. Unlike their patrons who can easily and quickly become addicted to the products, drug dealers know when it's time to stop offering the high quality stuff and start giving you the low quality mess. Yeah. So you don't get a high that'll hold you for a while. You get a little short high that you have to keep coming back all the time. And while the drug dealer might have hit it with you that first time, now all of a sudden they ain't doing it. You down there injecting everything and they just sitting back watching. What's the parallels between that and what we see around these division peddlers?
Two things in my mind. Number one, profit. If I can cut the product that you want more, and I get paid more, I'm winning.
That's it.
At your expense.
That's it.
Literally your expense. You're paying for me to win.
Right.
And you will never achieve what you're trying to achieve. And that's that original euphoria of that high, that exhilaration of some sense of identity, some enlightenment, some whatever. You'll never achieve it because I'm cutting the product.
Right. Right.
And then the second thing is, again, I know when to stop, right? So if I'm pushing a lie, pushing this product, and you no longer believe it, I quickly pivot to say, I didn't say it. And I didn't say it, right? And pivot and hit you with another product, right? And you're like, oh, is that it? Well, I don't know, but let's continue down this path for maybe 2 years, 4 years, and I'll let you know. And all the time and all the way, I'm cutting that product. So you don't even know in your heart of hearts and mind and minds what the difference is between a conservative and a liberal, a moderate, because you looked it up in the dictionary and what you saw for conservative was not the definition of the party.
Exactly.
Eric, what you saw as being liberal, the actual word, the meaning is not what's defined as that party.
No.
Moderate. No. So now the society, politicians, they're pushing a new definition for conservative,
right,
etc. I'm still confused. I get some understanding what a conservative is, what a liberal is, whatever, but I'm still looking at the etymology of the word. What does being conservative mean? Right? What does being liberal? It doesn't mean being free. It doesn't mean being fiscally responsible. No, look at the definition. It doesn't.
It just means a winning team. Whoever I can get convinced to get on my team so that we can win, that's what it is.
That's it.
And it morphs into whatever we need it to be. And
mark my words, Eric, you just hit it. I believe that it will continue to morph, right? It'll continue to morph. So when you said that the drug dealer knows when to stop, knows when maybe to cut the product, give you less, really changed it and morphed it. Mm-hmm. I think that in 10 years, maybe less, right? Maybe 2 more presidential cycles.
Yep.
That the definition and ideology of being Republican, being Democrat, and maybe any other fraction that may try to pop up and it'll be kind of demised by way of the dominant parties, or those concepts of conservative, liberal. I think within the next 10 years, we would see those concepts differently than we do today.
Right. Tommy, that's profound. And I would say to you and to our community that there are people out there that are just riding the wave. So it's interesting when in politics, when you see something start to work, just like in drug dealing, everybody goes for that. But if that strategy is not steeped in something of integrity or has any real value centers to it, it's ultimately not sustainable. And so when you look at the quick wins, you cannot look over there and see those people that are saying, hey, I see all kind of things, you know, and you can't keep saying that they're having a great experience and you want to have that experience because ultimately they're going to be out of their mind. Those of us that say, that's actually just hallucination, that ain't good, you know. So you and I are over on this other side saying we've got to keep pushing value-centered decisions, value-centered choices, behaviors. We have to model it, not just be pushing it, but live it ourselves. We have to ingest everything that we are teaching. And then you have to see the fruit that is born by what it is we're doing. Because ultimately, you can look at the individual and you can see the fruit of whatever they've been talking about. And if the fruit of what I'm talking about is I'm balled up in a corner in a circle, in a hole somewhere, I can't work, I can't get up, I can't feed my kids, take care of my family or myself, then that's not really where we want to go. And I think that's where the division peddlers are trying to take people to. People are seeing the end of that. No loyalty, no concern really about you. You're not really my friend. You're only my friend if you're angry. And but now that I lost my job and you have nothing to help me get a job other than to tell me to blame somebody else, that ain't sustainable. After a while, people say, you know what? I can't eat off of that. I can't live off of that.
So let me ask you, Eric, trigger my thinking here. There are a few topics as we look at diversity, equity, and inclusion and the identity wheel or diversity wheel, which really calls out a number of different dimensions of diversity. And a lot of people might say, as they look at this wheel, you know, there's some topics that are taboo, race, gender identity or sexual orientation, political views, etc. We're talking about political views right now and having this diversity and courageous conversation. What would you say or advise or recommend to individuals who are not comfortable having a civil political view discussion? And they may choose to disembark, jump off the train, right? Disengage, just pull the parachute and not stay engaged, not necessarily because the conversation is heated, which this is not, but it's a topic that I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I'm done. What would you say to those people to either support them in their mental health and relaxing, or stay engaged and just have this diversity conversation?
No, I'm generally always going to land on the side of read your body and do what's in your own mental and physical health's best interest.
Yeah.
So I think you got to read yourself. If you know that you're overwhelmed, hey, later, I don't have to play at all on that side. Now, if I haven't gotten to that place, then the next recommendation is curiosity. In other words, don't be so excited to talk and tell your position so often. Come at it from a surgical perspective and really disengage your emotions. Don't allow your emotions get caught up at all. And just listen to people and be kind to them and model that which you want to see in others. Curiosity takes it from an argument. And if you quit chasing people and debating people, you actually will see that inside of their own mind are some reservations. In other words, you can't help people by just competing with them. Point, counterpoint.
Yeah.
The better strategy is to stop. So if the cat is chasing the dog, is chasing the cat, stop. Now the cat's just chasing himself. And now you're just saying, hey, cat, that looks exhausting. You want to come sit out and maybe get a popsicle with me or something? I mean, you can't keep being in that thing chasing him, man. You got to get out. You're chasing your own tail. Yeah. And then finally, when it stops, says, I guess I was in there the last 10 laps all by myself. Yep. You know, and when you show curiosity to people, love to people, you bring back their humanity and you suppress the competitive nature of these debates. Because so often it feels as though you're judging the person and calling them ignorant for their belief. And that's just offensive. And all it's going to create is more challenge, more consternation, more debate.
Yeah.
And I think that when we use curiosity, that means you may have to allow their perspective, as wrong as it might be or right, to fill the airwaves. That's fine. It's just you and them. It ain't killing a soul. Whatever. Let them fill the airwaves and just keep loving them, caring about them. And finally, people will get off that subject and they'll talk about the things that they really are afraid of, the things that they're really concerned about. And then you can join them to make sure that they can get the job that they need to feed their family or whatever.
Eric, you spoke about what's resonating with me about competency. So as you were sharing, I was thinking quickly that there are certain professions that have the competency of active listening, inquisition, without sharing their own story.
Right.
The therapist, the counselor,
yeah,
the medical doctor, the executive coach. These are professions who listen to people and they tell their story, they talk about their pain, they talk about their successes, but the individual, the practicing professional, they don't follow up with their own story.
Right.
So the medical doctor, when they listen to their patient and the patient talk about their pain, they don't turn around and say, I'm glad you shared that because it reminds me of a pain point I have. I'm hurting here. I'm hurting here.
Right.
No, they just listen and say, hey, cat, the therapist, the coach. I think this is a skill set and a competency that more people should have that moves them beyond awareness.
Right.
And into that listening.
That's right.
20% speaking, 80% listening.
Right.
Right. And sometimes we may move to that 30% speaking or back into that 10% speaking. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, we learn more by the lives of other people.
That's it, Tom.
And not just looking at our lives through our own lens. And when we look at the mirror, we are surprised that we're getting older. We've always been getting older. Right. But sometimes we can't see the change that's happening by looking through our own lens.
Right.
Other people, may say, hey, you're not 13 anymore. Well, yes, I am. No, you're 59, right? You're 72. And so, wow, what happened? Yeah, life happened, and we didn't pause to smell the roses.
That's right. And so as we come to a close, Tommy, I think my last advice to people is don't get caught up in the madness. Understand that we will survive no matter what party leads the country. That ultimately God is in control of everything. Your job is to bring to the world the best you that you can contribute to the world. And I think that best you is one that delivers joy and peace and compliments and care to others. As we do that, everything changes around us, Tommy. And if we get caught up in the anxiety of having to solve division, then we only take that into ourselves, and our hearts can't really sustain that additional pressure. That's part of the enemy's design for us. But God has something much bigger, much more powerful, much more rewarding for us. And that is found in love, joy, peace, happiness, and standing up for justice when it's time to do that.
Yeah.
Well, we want to thank you all for joining us for another weekly diversity conversation. We're going to ask you to come back next week. We're going to have another conversation. We'll have probably a guest that will join us next week. But again, don't worry about which party is in control, because none of them is ultimately in control. Tommy, always great to talk to you, man. I'll see you again next week.
All right. Take care.
Bye now.